How the Albanian Mafia Took Over London. True crime documentary London. The city of dreams and nightmares. A place where history sleeps behind stone walls and fortunes change hands in the blink of an eye. But beneath its shining skyline, a new kind of power has taken root. Not political, not corporate, criminal. They came from the Balkans, quiet, disciplined, invisible. No flash, no chaos, no warning. And in less than 2 decades, they built an empire of blood and money across Britain. This is the untold story of how the Albanian Mafia took over London, a rise so fast, so precise, that even the police didn't see it coming. For decades, London's underworld was ruled by local legends, the Krays, the Addams family, the Yardis. Each had their codes, their turf, their stories. But the old world was fading, and in the vacuum it left behind, something colder began to move. The Albanian Mafia didn't announce their arrival. They didn't fight for attention. They built their empire like engineers, quietly, methodically, ruthlessly. And by the time the headlines caught up, London streets had already changed hands. What began as a few small-time hustlers from Eastern Europe turned into one of the most feared and organized criminal syndicates in the Western world. To understand how they did it, you have to go back far beyond London, to the mountains of Albania. For centuries, this land was ruled not by kings or governments, but by a code, the canon. It's a system older than the Bible, built on honor, revenge, and silence. At its heart lies Besa, the oath. Besa is more than loyalty. It's life itself. If you give your word, you keep it. If you betray it, your blood must pay the price. When communism fell in the 1990 seconds, Albania plunged into chaos. Entire families lost everything. Guns flooded the streets. Prisons emptied. Thousands fled to the west seeking work, hope, and power. And among them were men who carried the canoon in their hearts and a warlord's discipline in their hands. They didn't just come to survive. They came to rebuild an empire one deal at a time. It began in Italy, then spread through Belgium, Germany, and the Netherlands. By the early 2000s, small Albanian crews had found their way into London. At first, they worked for others, moving drugs for Turkish and Colombian cartels. But the Albanians were patient. They studied every weakness, every habit, every flaw. Then, they struck. They bypassed middlemen and made direct contact with South American suppliers, offering something the cartels valued above all: security. The Balkans were their highway, and their loyalty was absolute. Within a few years, their connections stretched from the jungles of Colombia to the nightclubs of Soho. Shipments poured in through Rotterdam, Antwerp, and Dover. The product was purer, cheaper, and faster. And just like that, the Albanians didn't just enter the market, they owned it. The secret to their success wasn't just violence, it was silence. They never bragged. They never showed off. They vanished into the crowd. If someone broke the code, they disappeared. If a rival refused to cooperate, they were erased quietly, efficiently, without witnesses. Their message spread faster than any bullet. A few dead men in East London sent ripples across the entire underworld. Even veteran gangsters stepped back. As one detective said, "The Albanians don't argue. They don't threaten. They just act." Their power grew not because they shouted louder, but because everyone else stopped talking. The Albanian Mafia operates like a corporation. There's a hierarchy: bosses, lieutenants, soldiers, and recruits. Everyone knows their place. They don't waste money on flash, no gold watches, no loud cars. They invest. They buy car washes, construction firms, transport companies, nightclubs. They mix dirty money with clean. One night, a truck delivers fruit from Spain. The next, it's cocaine. They use encryption, fake passports, and offshore accounts. They even employ accountants and lawyers, often without those professionals knowing who they truly work for. The result? A billion-pound shadow economy woven into London's own financial bloodstream. By the mid-2010 seconds, the Metropolitan Police knew they had a problem. They just didn't know how deep it went. They tapped phones. They raided flats. They seized shipments. And every time, they hit the same wall of silence. No one talked. No one snitched. Even those arrested seemed unafraid. They'd smile during questioning, say nothing, and walk out on bail like it was a business meeting. For them, prison wasn't a punishment. It was part of the system. Behind the scenes, officers were being tracked, families threatened. One investigator described it as fighting smoke with bare hands. They were up against not just criminals, but a code older, stronger, and deadlier than any law in London. Then came Erion Dashi, the man who changed everything. To the world, Dashi was nobody. A barber in Barking. Friendly, quiet, family man. To his neighbors, he cut hair, gave free coffee, and smiled often. But behind that barbershop door, he controlled one of the largest drug empires in Europe. Encrypted phones, cash couriers, fake identities. He never carried drugs himself, he didn't have to. Through coded spreadsheets and encrypted texts, Dashi coordinated shipments worth hundreds of millions. He'd earned the nickname, the Ghost. When authorities raided his flat in 2019, they expected a gang hideout. Instead, they found children's toys, a clean kitchen, and a single laptop. On it was a file called Roots, XLS. It detailed every shipment from origin to street. The last entry simply read, London, secured. By then, Dashi was gone. No signs of struggle, no clues. It was as if he'd vanished into thin air. Rumors spread. Some said he escaped to Albania with a new identity. Others claimed his own organization eliminated him, a warning to stay invisible. His disappearance only deepened the mystery. And the empire he built didn't crumble. It expanded. After Dashi's vanishing, leadership passed to a shadowy group known as the Circle. 7 men, each responsible for a part of the operation. Drugs, trafficking, security, finance, logistics, legal fronts, and enforcement. They never meet in person. They never use phones. Every command moves through coded chains of trust through the Besa. The Circle doesn't act like a gang. They run like an international corporation with military discipline. Their meetings happen in luxury hotels, masked as business conferences. Their accountants manage millions, and their enforcers, often ex-soldiers from Kosovo and Albania, handle problems without hesitation. To them, London isn't just a city, it's headquarters. And that's the terrifying part. You'll never see their power until you look for it. They've invested in real estate, hospitality, music, and construction. Their money flows through legal systems impossible to trace. Even the most respectable London firms have unknowingly handled their accounts. Nightclubs, private security companies, import businesses all have their fingerprints somewhere. Every year, millions of pounds of drug money is cleaned through legitimate UK assets. And while other gangs fight over street corners, the Albanians moved upward into boardrooms and behind closed doors. They didn't need bullets anymore. They had banks. Here's what chills investigators the most. During Operation Venetic, a 2020 Europol crackdown that hacked encrypted EncroChat phones, British police discovered that nearly 1 in 3 cocaine deals traced back to Albanian networks. But the real twist? Most of these networks weren't run by wanted criminals or fugitives. They were ordinary citizens, taxi drivers, warehouse owners, builders, barbers. They lived quiet lives, paid taxes. But each was part of a global machine, fueled by silence, loyalty, and money. London had become their strongest base outside the Balkans, a city conquered without a single war. The Albanian Mafia didn't just change London's crime scene, they redefined it. They turned chaos into business. They replaced fear with order. They made the underworld efficient. Even now, their presence hides behind ordinary faces and clean paperwork. A nightclub bouncer, a construction investor, a delivery driver. Each might be connected, and none will ever admit it. Because the moment someone breaks Besa, their name is erased and their family disappears with it. It's not just about money anymore. It's about control and the terrifying beauty of silence. From war-torn mountains to London's glass towers, the Albanian Mafia built their empire not with noise, but with discipline. They mastered the art of invisibility. And in doing so, they took the city without firing a single shot. Today, their legacy continues, woven into the very economy that once ignored them. Their rule is quiet, their code is unbreakable, and their reach, endless. Because in London, power no longer shouts, it whispers. If this story opened your eyes, hit subscribe and uncover more true crime mysteries that expose the world's silent empires.